Now let's turn to the US. The country's central bank has made an announcement. That's the US Federal Reserve, or the Fed as it's called. It has finally cut interest rates by 0.5%.
Today, the Federal Open Market Committee decided to reduce the degree of policy restraint by lowering our policy interest rate by 0.5 percentage point.
This is the first rate cut in more than 4 years, and it was larger than expected, 0.5 percentage point. That's an aggressive move. It leaves the interest rate between 4.75 and 5%. There's a lot of speculation about what this means, about how it could affect the economy. But before we get into the details, let's understand the basics. First, what are the Fed's interest rates? Well, a country's central bank is usually the only institution that prints money. In the US, that's the Federal Reserve. They print money. After they print money, they lend it to regular banks, who then lend it to ordinary people. That's how the system works. Now, the Fed charges interest for lending out the money it prints. And when this changes, it has a domino effect. Lower Fed rates mean cheaper loans for everyone else. Cheaper business loans, cheaper home loans, lower credit card fees, the works. That's how it works. The Fed cutting interest rates means that Americans can borrow more money freely. And this usually helps boost economic activity. That is the gist of it. So why would the Fed keep interest rates high? Why didn't it cut rates for 4 years? Because high interest rates help fight a big problem, and that is inflation. In 2022, the US was facing record inflation. It was well over 9%. Things were becoming unaffordable for ordinary Americans. Rising interest rates helps dent inflation. It helps keep inflation in check. Because high interest rates mean higher borrowing costs. People and businesses cannot afford to take out loans anymore, or that frequently. So demand cools, people stop buying a lot of things, and prices start falling. At least they stop rising quickly, if not falling. So to tame inflation, the Fed started raising its interest rates back in March 2022. And the Fed kept raising rates till July last year, and then it stopped. It waited for inflation to come down. Rates have been steady for more than a year now, and inflation has been coming down. It came down to about 2.5% last month. So the Fed finally decided that it was time to ease up. And that is why it has cut rates.
I would just say that, the U.S. economy is in a good place, and our decision today is designed to keep it there.
Now, you might think that if everything's going well, why the aggressive cut? The Fed usually tweaks rates by just 25 basis points. That's 0.25%. So then why did it lower rates by a whole 0.5% this time? Well, there are a few theories. One is that the Fed felt that it was behind the pack. Other central banks had already started cutting rates, like those in Europe, the UK and Canada. So the US is now playing catch-up. But there's also another theory. The Fed wants to cut rates by another 0.5% by the end of this year, and then 1% in 2025 and 0.5% in 2026 as well. Usually when the cuts are this steep, it spells trouble. It usually signals economic trouble, like a recession. Now, the Fed chair says that there is nothing to worry about at the moment and that the economy is in a good place. And this is just a way to make things even better. But not everyone's convinced.
Sir, what's your reaction to the Fed cutting interest rates today?
I guess it shows the economy is very bad to cut it by that much. Assuming they're not just playing politics, the economy would be very bad, or they're playing politics, one or the other. But it was a big cut.
Donald Trump says that either the economy is in a bad shape or the steep cut was a political move. It comes less than 2 months before the US presidential election. The Fed says that the American economy is doing well, so this could be seen as an endorsement of the Democratic Party. Of course, the Fed chair has denied this. He said that there was no political motivation behind this move. But that won't stop the attacks from coming. Whatever the reason, the Fed has cut rates. Other countries will follow suit. Most take their cues from the US Federal Reserve, so the cost of borrowing may start to ease all over the world. Does this mean that the recent years of economic distress are finally over? Well, let's not get carried away. We'll be tracking all the developments for you on this front.